I walked away from the love of my life without letting her explain. 27 years later, I was called to her hospital bed, and what she confessed in her final moments destroyed the story I had told myself for decades. This is the story of forgiveness that arrived too late, but changed everything. Some love stories begin with fireworks, loud laughter, and promises shouted into the night. This one began in silence. A silence so deep it stayed with me for 27 years. My name is Samuel Rhodes, and for most of my life, I believed love was something you survived, not something you kept. I was 72 when the letter arrived. A thin, cream-colored envelope, my name written carefully in a handwriting I would recognize anywhere. Eleanor. My hands trembled before I even opened it, because when you've buried someone emotionally for decades, their handwriting feels like a ghost tapping gently on your door. I sat at the small kitchen table, the one I ate alone at every morning, the same one my wife had once filled with laughter. The clock ticked. Tick, tick, tick. I didn't open the letter right away, because sometimes what scares us isn't bad news, it's old feelings waking up. When I finally unfolded the paper, the words were simple, painfully simple. Samuel, if you receive this letter, it means I am still alive. If you don't come, I will understand. But if there is any kindness left in your heart, please come to St. Mary's Hospital, room 417. That was all. No apology, no explanation, no signature. But it didn't need one. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, and suddenly I was young again. Eleanor used to hum when she cooked. Not loud, not for attention, just soft sounds, like she didn't even realize she was doing it. We met in our 40s, too old for foolish love, or so we thought. She was a librarian. I fixed old radios. Two quiet souls who didn't ask for much from life. For 12 years, she was my peace, until the night everything shattered. I came home early. That alone was unusual. Her coat was by the door, the lights were on, and there was a man in my living room. Not touching her, not kissing, just sitting. But Eleanor's face. I had never seen guilt sit so loudly on a person's skin. She stood up quickly. "Samuel, I can explain." But I didn't let her. Because fear, when mixed with pride, becomes cruelty. I grabbed my jacket, my keys, and before leaving, I said the words that destroyed us both. If you ever loved me, you wouldn't have let another man sit where I belong. The door slammed. I never came back. The kettle whistled. I had forgotten it on the stove. Life does that. It keeps moving, even when you're frozen in the past. I folded the letter, placed it carefully into my coat pocket. I told myself I was only going to the hospital, for closure. That's the lie we tell ourselves when forgiveness feels too heavy. The drive was quiet, too quiet. Every red light felt longer. Every mile closer felt like peeling back an old wound. At the hospital, the smell of disinfectant and sadness greeted me. Room 417. I stood outside the door for a long time, because behind it was the woman who broke my heart, and the man who broke his own pride. I raised my hand and knocked. The door creaked open, and when I saw her, Eleanor looked smaller, fragile, like time had finally collected its debt. Her eyes met mine, and she smiled. Not wide, not happy, just relieved. "Samuel," she whispered. I didn't answer, because my voice was buried somewhere between anger and love and regret. I pulled a chair closer to her bed, sat down. For the first time in 27 years, we were in the same room, and neither of us knew how to begin again. The room was quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that presses against your chest until breathing feels like work. Eleanor watched me carefully. like someone afraid that if they moved too fast, the moment would disappear. "You came," she said softly. I nodded. That was all I could manage. Her hands were folded over the thin hospital blanket, smaller than I remembered, veins visible. Time had not been gentle with her. "I didn't think you would," she admitted. "I almost didn't," I said. The truth sat between us, heavy, unspoken. She swallowed. Then, slowly, she turned her face toward the window. "The man you saw that night," she began. My chest tightened. "I need you to know, he wasn't my lover." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. But relief didn't come, only confusion. "Then who was he?" I asked. Her lips trembled. "He was my son." The word echoed in the room. Son. I stared at her. "You told me you never had children," I said. "I did," she replied. "I lied." The clock on the wall clicked. Once, twice. "I had him when I was 19, she continued. "My parents sent me away, said I would ruin the family name." Her voice cracked. "I gave him up for adoption. They told me it was mercy." She turned back to me, eyes wet but steady. "He found me years later." My hands clenched. "And that night?" I asked. "That night," she whispered, "he came to tell me he was dying." The room tilted. Cancer. Stage 4. He wanted to know where he came from, before it was too late. I leaned back in the chair, my heart pounding. "And she continued, "I didn't tell you because I was afraid." Afraid. Not of losing me, but of being judged. "I thought," she said quietly, "you'd look at me differently." I laughed once, a broken sound. "I already did," I said. She flinched. "That night," she whispered, "when you walked out," she closed her eyes, "I never stopped loving you." The words landed softly, but cut deeply. "You could have told me," I said. "I wanted to," she replied, "but you never came back." Silence again, long, heavy. Then she reached beneath her pillow, slowly, carefully, and pulled out a small bundle of papers, old, yellowed. "I wrote to you," she said. My stomach dropped. "Every year, on your birthday." She placed them in my hands. Letters, dozens of them. "I never mailed them," she admitted. "I was waiting for the day you might knock on my door." My fingers shook as I flipped through them, each one dated, each one unfinished forgiveness. "I didn't want you to forgive me," she said. "I just wanted you to understand." Tears blurred my vision. All those years, all that anger, built on a moment. I never let her explain. Her breathing grew shallow. A nurse peeked in, adjusted a monitor, left quietly. "Samuel," Eleanor whispered, "I don't have much time." My throat tightened. "There's one more thing," she said. She reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. "The man, my son." She paused, gathered strength. "He asked about you." I froze. "I told him," she continued, "you were the only man I ever truly loved." Her grip tightened. "And then he asked if you would forgive me." My chest ached. "I told him," she said, "I didn't know." She looked at me, really looked. "So now," she whispered, "I'm asking you myself." The room held its breath. Forgiveness. A word so small, yet so heavy. And just as I opened my mouth to speak, the heart monitor beeped sharply. Once, twice, then faster. A nurse rushed in. "Sir, please step outside." I stood, stunned. As they closed the door, Eleanor's eyes met mine, and through the glass, she mouthed 3 words. "I'm so sorry." The door shut, and I was left in the hallway, holding letters that should have been read decades ago. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and fear. I stood there holding Eleanor's letters, my hands numb, my mind loud. The door to room 417 stayed closed. Every second stretched. Tick, tick, tick. A doctor approached, not rushed. That was how I knew. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "She's gone." The world did not collapse. It did something worse. It went silent. I nodded, thanked him. I don't know why. Then I walked back into the room. Eleanor lay still, peaceful, like she was finally resting from carrying too much for too long. I sat beside her, took her hand, cold now. "I forgive you," I whispered. The words fell into the quiet, too late to be heard, but still necessary. At the foot of the bed stood someone I hadn't noticed before. A man in his 40s, thin, pale, eyes red. He held his hat against his chest. "You must be Samuel," he said softly. I looked at him, and in his face I saw Eleanor. "My name is Daniel," he continued. "I'm her son." We stood there, 2 strangers, connected by a woman who had loved us both in different ways. "She talked about you," he said. "A lot." I swallowed. "I wish I had known," I replied. "So do I," he said. We sat together. No rushing, no awkwardness, just shared loss. "She never blamed you," Daniel said. "Not once." That hurt more than anger ever could. "She said," he continued, "that love doesn't disappear just because people leave." I smiled faintly. "She was right," I said. At home that night, I opened the first letter, then the second, then the third. Years of apologies, explanations, love never withdrawn. By dawn, I had read them all and understood something painful. Eleanor never stopped choosing me. I was the one who stopped choosing her. Weeks later, I stood at Eleanor's grave, Daniel beside me. "I'm thinking of changing my last name," he said quietly, "to hers." I nodded. She'd like that. He hesitated, then smiled. "You know," he said, "I don't have many family left." I looked at him. "Neither do I." And just like that, life offered me something unexpected. Not a second chance at the past, but a first chance at the future. Every year now, on my birthday, I write a letter. Not to Eleanor, but to Daniel. Because love, when given late, still counts. And forgiveness, even whispered too late, can still set a heart free. The end. I appreciate you spending time with us today. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe.